In the quiet hum of a world holding its breath, a story of ultimate sacrifice had just reached its somber end. A man, who spoke of love and walked among the forgotten, was gone. His followers, a small band of shattered dreamers, were scattered, hiding in the shadows of a city that had just silenced their hope. The air in Jerusalem was thick with a heavy, final stillness. 3 days. That's how long the silence reigned. 3 days of despair, of whispered memories, of a future that seemed to have vanished into a cold, dark tomb. But stories, especially the greatest ones, have a way of surprising you. As the first rays of dawn stretched across the waking city on the third day, a few brave women, their hearts heavy with grief, made their way to the tomb. They carried spices, a final act of love and respect for their fallen teacher. They expected to find guards, a heavy stone, and the unshakable finality of death. What they didn't expect was an earthquake, not of the ground but of reality itself. As they approached, they stopped, their eyes wide with disbelief. The massive stone, a seal of death that took several strong men to move, was rolled away. The tomb, which should have been a place of sorrow, was empty. An eerie golden light seemed to pulse from within. Fear mixed with a strange, new feeling they couldn't name. Where was he? Had someone taken the body? The questions tumbled through their minds, each one more confusing than the last. Then they saw him. Not a ghost, not a memory, but a figure cloaked in light, a being whose presence felt ancient and powerful. The guards, seasoned Roman soldiers, lay on the ground as if struck by lightning, paralyzed by a sight their minds couldn't process. The being spoke, and his voice was like the gentle rumble of a distant, peaceful storm. "Do not be afraid," he said. "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen, just as he said he would." The word hung in the air, a single, impossible spark. It was a promise they had heard before, but one their grieving hearts had locked away. Could it be true? Rushing back to the city, their fear now replaced by a wild, electrifying hope, they burst into the room where the disciples were hiding. "He's alive!" they exclaimed, their voices trembling. "The tomb is empty. We saw an angel." But their words were met with skepticism. Peter and John, their leaders, looked at the women with doubt. Grief can play tricks on the mind, they thought. An empty tomb, an angel. It sounded like a desperate fantasy. Still, a sliver of curiosity, a tiny what-if gnawed at them. They had to see for themselves. They ran. They ran through the streets of Jerusalem, their hearts pounding a frantic rhythm against their ribs. John, being younger, outran Peter, arriving first at the mouth of the cave. He peered in, seeing the linen cloths that had wrapped the body, lying neatly folded. It was strange. If grave robbers had come, why would they take the time to fold the wrappings? Then Peter arrived, and without hesitation, he went straight inside. The scene confirmed the women's story. The burial cloths were there, but the body was gone. The smaller cloth that had been around his head was folded up by itself, separate from the linen. It was an orderly absence, a deliberate emptiness that spoke not of theft, but of something far more profound. John followed Peter, and as he saw the empty tomb and the carefully placed linens, the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. He remembered the words, the promises, and in that moment he believed. They returned to the others, their minds reeling. The room was buzzing with a mixture of fear, confusion, and a fragile, growing excitement. As they were trying to make sense of it all, two of the disciples decided to leave Jerusalem. It was too much. They needed to get away, to go back to their old lives in a village called Emmaus. As they walked, their heads bowed, discussing the bewildering events, a stranger joined them on the road. He walked alongside them, his presence calm and reassuring. "What are you talking about?" he asked gently. They stopped, amazed that anyone in the area could be unaware of the recent turmoil. Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have happened here in these days? They asked. They poured out their story, their hopes pinned on a prophet, a mighty man named Jesus, who they thought would be the one to redeem Israel. They told him of the crucifixion, the death of their dreams, and the strange tale from the women about an empty tomb. The stranger listened patiently. Then he began to speak. And as he spoke, the world seemed to shift. Starting with the ancient scriptures, he walked them through the prophecies, explaining how it was all part of a divine plan. He explained that the Messiah had to suffer these things and then enter his glory. His words were like a key unlocking a door in their hearts. Everything started to make sense. The pain, the suffering, the death, it wasn't the end. It was the path. As they reached their village, they urged the stranger to stay with them. It's nearly evening, the day is almost over, they pleaded. So he went in to stay. As he sat at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. In that simple, familiar action, their eyes were suddenly opened. The way he broke the bread, the look in his eyes. It was him. It was Jesus. And just as they recognized him, he vanished from their sight. They stared at each other, their hearts burning within them. The confusion was gone, replaced by a certainty that was as real as the table in front of them. They didn't even wait for morning. They raced back to Jerusalem, all 7 miles, in the dead of night. They burst back into the room where the 11 disciples were gathered, shouting, "It's true! The Lord has risen and has appeared to us." As they were all excitedly sharing their stories, a sudden peace fell over the room. And then he was there, standing right in the middle of them. Not a ghost, not a vision, solid, real. "Peace be with you," he said. They gasped, shrinking back in terror. They thought they were seeing a spirit. But he was patient. He showed them his hands and his feet, the marks of his ordeal, transformed now into symbols of victory. "Why are you troubled?" he asked, his voice filled with compassion. "Look at my hands and my feet. It is I myself. Touch me and see. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have." He even asked for something to eat, and ate a piece of fish in front of them, proving his physical reality beyond any doubt. This wasn't just a spiritual comeback. This was a physical triumph over the ultimate enemy, death itself. The one who had been conquered had become the conqueror. The tomb was not a prison, but a doorway. Death was not a final stop, but a passage. For 40 days, he appeared to them not as a fleeting spirit, but as a living, breathing guide. He taught them, ate with them, and prepared them for the next chapter of their journey. He explained that his story is life, his death, and his resurrection was the fulfillment of everything the scriptures had ever promised. It was a rescue plan for all of humanity, a plan that had been in motion since the beginning of time. The disciples were transformed. The scattered, frightened group became a bold, unstoppable force. They had seen the impossible. They had touched the resurrected King. Their fear was replaced with a fire that would spread across the globe. The resurrection wasn't just an event, it was a cosmic shift. It proved that love is stronger than hate, that life is stronger than death, and that hope can never be extinguished. It was the ultimate twist in the story of humanity, turning the darkest tragedy into the most glorious victory. The silence of the tomb was broken by the sound of a new beginning, a promise that echoes through the ages. Death does not have the final say. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more.